You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello, welcome to Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Join paranormal historian and ufologist Kevin Malik and psychic demonologist Jennifer Celsi-Malik as they navigate us through the different categories of the unknown and the unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, cryptids and monsters, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, metaphysics, forbidden archaeology, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, crimes, and corruption, with top analysis from the experts of these disciplines. If it's amazing, unusual, or mysterious, if it's bizarre, creepy, and fantastic, if it's unbelievable, paranormal, or supernatural, it's here on Paraversal Universe. Here are your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer.
Hello, everyone. Whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, welcome to Paraversal Universe, brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited at the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center here in Rylander, Wisconsin. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer.
What's up, everybody?
Paraversal Universe is produced by Kat Hobson, the voice of Fate Magazine Radio, over at WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We are also heard on WCET 101.7 FM out of Columbia, South Carolina, High Point Radio at 100.5 FM and 1620 AM out of New Jersey, and the Rift Radio Network family out of Lakeside, Virginia. Welcome one and all. And hello to everybody in the chat room. We look forward to your questions and comments as always. The archive for the show will be available as well. Show archives from over the years can be found in various places on the web, including our archives-like page on Facebook called Paraversal Universe Show Archives. Also check out our guest promo page, Paraversal Universe Radio, for what's upcoming in the near future. We hope everyone's doing well, as always. We are still waiting on spring. Most of the snow has melted, but there's still some patches, so we're getting there. It's almost here, we hope.
We'll just be glad we're not the southeast of Wisconsin right now.
Right, they're about to get more snow. Oh.
Yeah, we're about to get more snow tomorrow here in Michigan.
Yeah. So. We have an awesome show on the Dogman phenomenon coming up. But first, as always, let's do our shout-outs. Shout-outs go to those people who shared our show banners this week. We appreciate it greatly and thank you kindly. Who do we have?
This week we have Walt Christos, Thoughts of Christos, Katrina Cooper, Rhodey Speak, Dennis Koch, Jason Bland, Paranormal Soup, Jamie Demelos, JJ Paranormal, Metaphysical Bounce, Howie Odell from the Orion Effect, Kat Hobson at WBHM, Lawrence DeMisa, Jean Broida, Lisa Reynaga, The Rift, Sudan, Lori Kreslaw, Jennifer Inez, Elaine Dawes, and Trish Freudel.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Alrighty. So this week, the topic on Paraversal Universe is Dogmen, werewolves, skinwalkers, and the like. Joining us is ex-Marine, parasociologist, and Dogman researcher David Keilman from the state of Michigan, home of the Michigan Dogman. David has a degree in sociology and has been researching the phenomenon for many years now. He is also a witness to one, so we'll talk about that. We'll discuss how these encounters affect folks, not just individually, but sometimes as a whole family. We'll look at society's pop culture concerning these things. plus wherever the chat room takes us. So, shall we bring him out?
Yes, let's bring him out.
David, I heard you before. Are you still with us?
Yes, sir. Excited to be here on the radio with you guys and share and answer questions and get along. That's what I'm here for. To
Awesome.
help hopefully educate others of what I've learned over the last 25 years.
Sweet, and that's the plan. Yes, welcome back to Paraversal Universe. First off, probably because I'm sure that we have people listening that don't know the differences, we should define the difference between what a dogman is and a werewolf and a skinwalker. Can you tell everybody the differences between these? Can we start with that?
Yeah, sure. A werewolf, of course, is ones that turn from human into wolves and can be in any form in between their, how they switch. They just, I call it magic, but it's, that's what people call, things that they don't understand. That's technology. But to understand what these are, you got to know that there's a flesh and blood dogman. It has a tail, and this is the kind that's mostly seen in Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin. They're between 5 and 7 feet tall, and they vary in color. They could be black, brown, any color that a dog can be. Basically, that's what color they can be. But also there's the Rougarous, which is the myths down in Louisiana and down south Alabama. And then also, there's other things. There's Adlets, which is a dog-man type creature that's from Alaska. And then, it's a worldwide phenomenon, actually, because there's dogmen that's been, wolvers, that's what's in Ireland. And it's just been going on for a long time. Even Egyptian gods, Ra is the shape of a dogman, in case you didn't notice. But there are definitely differences. And I wrote a paper on it myself, and I shared it to my group, Michigan Dogman Only. And it talks about my 5 main groups of dogmen, which is type 1 would be the Michigan Dogman, which is the type that I saw 25 years ago running across the road, going to work. And then the second type would be like Rougarous, which is the legends, people that are cursed in the French religion, that, they just are cursed people, Rougarous. And then the werewolves, which is they change from human form into werewolves, and like in the movies like Van Helsing and such. But I really like the Van Helsing movie because of what they look like. It is actually a really close interpretation of what I've seen 2 times in the last 25 years. I'll get to the 4th kind, which I call like a Bigfoot dogman cross. Is like a famous one is the Beast of 7 Shoots picture, if anybody has seen that. Mm-hmm. That's the 4th type that I'm talking about. It's kind of a cross between a Bigfoot and a dogman, and those are apparently more aggressive as well. And I got an incoming call. I got to hang up, but yeah, not taking this call. But anyway, the last type, it's just it's just like any dog, let me get rid of this thing. Hang on. Hang up. Go. All right, back to you guys. There's a type with no tail, and they say it's like government made and a laboratory made with, and it's recently made its way on the scene. They call them fatheads. They're basically dog soldiers. And and I really believe that that could be happening. But those are also the creatures that I believe that are in the LBL area in Kentucky that have actually killed people, and there's been documented things that's gone on, and that's my main types. I know that's a long answer, but that's the answer that I had to really give because that's how I explain it.
Well, I'm glad you did that, and right off the bat too, because there are different types. Like you said, there's shape-shifting types. There's the kind that are always in their dogman form, and then you got the variations of both really. I mean, because the skinwalker is also has that element, the occult element. When I say occult, I just mean the spirituality of doing rituals to deities, for example, for powers and abilities, and the skinwalker being that they put the skin of whatever animal they're gonna, at least the Native American. I know there are other versions. In fact, all over the world, anytime you hear about shape-shifting, whether it's the werewolves or even like with the reptilians, there's always an occult element to it. So I think that I think there's a occult element going on with some of it. And I also think that, like you said, the government, our governments today, and maybe even many all the way back, when we talk about the Nephilim and giants and the different races back then. And you had brought up like Anubis and Ra,
right.
This stuff goes way back, and there's so many variations. But with all these reports, you have an upright dog, basically, who can use its hands more like, or use its hands like hands opposed to paws.
Right.
But from there, it kind of goes in different directions.
Right, and everybody has a little bit of different descriptions. Even they can be the same creatures, but be a little different, just like people are different. Some people have red hair and some people have blue eyes, and it's just, everything can vary. Just like you can't just say they all look the same, because they're not going to all look the same. They're all going to either have a little gray in them or a little white or a brown, or any color variation can happen. As long as it's possible in a dog, then it's possible in a dog man, and I believe that firmly. So,
I'd like to revisit your beginnings into this phenomenon, not only because it's relevant to what we're talking about, but also because, we're now on new networks and platforms who haven't heard your story before, and we haven't had you on in a long time. So let's start with how you personally got involved with the Dogman phenomenon to begin with. And we have plenty of time for this, so feel free to take the floor anytime you need during the interview.
Okay. So what was asked a question or what?
Yeah, the question is, you're like, I guess walk us through or explain to us like your first experience with this, like when you became aware that there was dogmen, and when you the aha moment when you're like, oh, wow, they're real. This is like a real thing, like and that moment it kind of.
Well, that would be the first experience I had with them when I was on my way to work, as was described on Dogman Encounters 5, which episode 5 was one of the earliest ones, because actually I was out talking about Dogman before the Dogman Encounter shows came out. And, I've been on Facebook groups since, 2008, trying to put the word out. There was Mr. Cook was here in Michigan. He had a group. But getting back to the question part of that, which was, I'm sorry, go ahead. What was the question again?
Share your experience with us. Yeah. Share your experience with us.
Okay, yeah, okay. All right. Well, okay. Well, the first time I was going to work, and I saw something, basically in two steps go across a 2-lane freeway. I could definitely tell it wasn't a man, and it wasn't really a Bigfoot. It had ears and a snout and a pretty long tail. But people say, did it have a tail? Didn't have a tail? So I gave answers why I don't remember if it did or not. But now that I think back and remember, like almost like a vision quest, like you try to remember your memories. It's just 25 years ago now, and I definitely know that it wasn't a man in a suit. It was a creature with a snout and ears, and it was brownish, reddish. It was in Reed City, Michigan. It happened, which is 10 miles west of where I live right now. And there's been a lot of experiences in Osceola County where I live at. And actually, if you ask a common person on the street, do they know about Dogmen? They'll tell you, over 3/4 of the people around here know what it is without even having to tell them. I'll have a shirt on or something. Hey, they're like, hey, Dogman, all right. And, it's starting to be a thing around here where people actually know, and they're actually starting to recognize me. Hey, it's Abe, the Dogman guy, but, that's not all I'm known for. I did take a lot of sociology, psychology, and all that, but getting back to the experience, I had a more recent experience where I was putting out bait to go bow hunting, and I don't know if you had heard this before, but I dozed off in my shed because I always slept till daybreak, when to go hunting because it's bow hunting, and you got to be quiet. I don't like walking into the blind; it's like sleeping in there for the night and getting it ready. Well, something came and walked up on my shed, and as I beat on the shed, and I opened the door and I looked outside. There was 4 coyotes and one that was on 2 legs, and it was definitely a little scary for me. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty petrified. And I had a 22 or 25 or 22 pistol, and I shot it in the air through the shed's roof. And at that time, it scared it off. It took off, and the coyotes, just took off. But he didn't just take off; he vanished. It was like as soon as I shot, it went from a solid form to something that looked like kind of like a ghost you could see through, and then it was gone. It didn't run away. It vanished. That's the only way I could explain it. And the most recent one I had was last year. I just caught a glimpse of one way off, out in Lake County. I when I say I've seen 2 times, it's because those were up close or close enough. The other ones, any other one I've had is so far away that, it's hard to tell, I mean, when you're way far off like that, it could be a Bigfoot, it could be a lot of things, but you go check the prints and where they were, and, then that's because that's what I do. But those were my 2 times, that was in 94, which would have been about 24 years ago was the first one. And then 2009 was the later one. If anybody had any questions about that, I could elaborate further. But basically, I was on my way to work and saw it, and I pulled over the side of the road, and it ran across the other side of the road, and the rest is history. My mind has been definitely thinking about it ever since, and it's an obsession that I can't stop thinking about, and I try to stop thinking about it, and it just doesn't work because it comes in your dreams, and you can't get away from it. Once you're into the Dogman phenomena, it finds you. It really does. It's hard to get out of it. But go ahead if you any.
That's interesting. That's and that's one thing that you brought up about your second sighting is the vanishing aspect, which brings up paracryptozoology, which is
right. That's where I got into ghosts. I'm like, well, flesh and blood animals don't vanish, so there's something more to these. And also, I had that feeling where you see a ghost and you'll get goosebumps in your arms, and you'll feel that aura in the air. And I felt that at that time, and that's how I know if I'm by ghosts or spirits. Is the same feeling. You get that same feeling. And that's actually use that to go through the woods and try to locate them when I am going around. I actually use the goosebumps and that aura feeling to get closer. I know a lot of people are like, why are you trying to go find one? Well, it's not that I'm trying to find one. It's just that, it'd be nice, if I could figure this puzzle out a little more. You put it together a little more every day, and then you find some pieces you were missing, and the puzzle looks a lot clearer.
Okay, everybody, why don't we finish this discussion after our first commercial break? You are listening to Paraversal Universe, so we'll be right back with our guests for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son? What are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome!
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back from our first commercial break, everyone. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on WCET-FM, High Point Radio, and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik. We'd like to take a minute to thank everybody who makes Paraversal Universe possible, including graphic art director Lawrence D. Misa, music theme by Matt Stenz, announcer Frank Lee, producer and owner at WBHM Kat Hobson, also to Howie Odell and Lisa Renaga and the Rift family, and to Michael Vera at WCET-FM. Thank you all for carrying our content and working together on our behalf and the behalf of our audience everywhere. And of course, as always, a huge thank you to God in heaven, whose strength beyond strength is stronger than all, for granting us this wonderful show and opportunity here to be with you all. And appreciation to the various platforms we are on, including iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Twitch, YouTube, Dailymotion, TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Blog Talk, Podbean, Google Play, Mixcloud, and Paranormal Livestream app, which is streamed and restreamed from various other outlets all over the world via the internet. This segment of Paraversal Universe is brought to you by the UFO Wisconsin Research Team, Wisconsin's alternative to MUFON. Okay, back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we're talking with parasociologist David Keilman about the Dogman phenomenon. Dave, you still with us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm still here.
Awesome.
Waiting patiently to talk some more.
Okay. So, you had some...
Yeah. Actually, I have a couple of questions from chat. Brenda Holmes from chat wanted to know if there are any dogmen in Georgia. She's from Carter.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. If you go to Anna M.K. Larson's Dogman map, you just Google Dogman map, it'll come up, and there's these awesome little red flags, and you can just zoom in, and basically every state except 2 or 3 has at least one sighting. But just remember, those are only about 5% of actual sightings. Those are only the ones reported to her, and the ones she's heard on Dogman encounters and stuff like that. But she won't just put down anything. She has to believe it. She won't just, if she don't think people are telling the truth, she won't put it on the map. So I think that's really respectable as well. But she's basically, if you want to find out where they are, you go on Dogman map, just Google it, and it'll come up and be on YouTube. And there's also a bunch of videos that go along with it. Michigan actually has 2 videos because there's so many sightings. Wisconsin is gigantic as well, and Ohio is pretty big. But every state has pretty much at least one Dogman sighting. But what they're seeing, the descriptions vary, and the behaviors vary. So which is telling me they don't act the same. They're probably not the same creature, even though they look the same.
All right. So the next question we had for you is, don't they communicate telepathically?
More than one way. Actually, they've come to me while I was sleeping, and you wake up like a waking dream, and you'll know they're around because they wanted you to go outside, or they want you to. They'll let you know that they're in the area, and they'll invade your dreams. Also, last spring, I took off when I was awoken from one of them dreams, and I went out down the road with Lake Gila Road. It was on it's on the border of Lake County and Osceola County here in Michigan. And about a half hour later, I felt really sick, like a zapped feeling, similar to Bigfoot, because I got close to where I was supposed to go. And they will let you know when you're getting too close to where they don't want you to go. And they will let you know. You'll actually hear a voice in your, talk speak in your head. Like, okay, you're messing up, or whatever they say. And it's always in English, which I don't know how they do that in English, but I know native languages, and I've heard a few native words used in there as well, like some Algonquin language and stuff like that. But the natives have always talked about these creatures, so that, to me, that's telling me they always have existed. But yeah, go ahead.
And then the other question we had for you was, do they protect burial mounds?
I'm starting to believe it. There's some burial mounds in Reed City that was ancient Indian burial grounds, and that there used to be a plaque up there years ago, and the plaque is gone, and nobody would know what they were now. As I call them Whispering Hills, because you'll go up to them at night and you'll hear like whispers, like people talking like ghosts. And they definitely hang out in that area, but I don't know if that's what attracts them. Some people say they're the protectors of the dead. That's the Dogman is. There's other things that they say that Dogman does, and that's one of the things. He's the protector of the dead. If you Google a lot of things, I just Google all the time. I'm guilty, but you can find out a lot of things, And I also have that Alexa where I'll ask questions, and and she gets confused from time to time, but it's mostly good answers.
Can I ask you really quick? Has she ever creeped you out?
Yes, actually.
I had to ask.
Gave me an answer about something that I don't think she should have knew the answer to that. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, go ahead. I just had to ask that quick because, yeah, I'm kind of afraid of a lot of technology. I don't really like it, and it curses me. Like I'll try to go use videos, go online. It seems like it always messes up on me, and I don't know if it's somebody actually messing with me or it's just I don't know what I'm doing. But it always seems to happen every time I'm trying to do something, and it really starts to get annoying after a while. Yeah, I know. It's like I have, like they say, like, are the stars working for you today? Or not Hollywood. I'm talking about like the stars in heaven, like
Right.
astrology. Like, are the planets aligned for you right now? Or, is Mercury in retrograde, right?
Right. There's got to be some truth to that astrology because there's a whole lot of things that people, can make general assumptions, based on, little fact. And most of the times they end up being pretty close to being believable,
We can almost tie astrology in because archaeoastrology and archaeoastronomy, like, for example, some of these burial mounds are built right on spots that mimic the patterns of the star in the sky and whatnot. Facing directions.
Yes.
And we talk about Dogman and burial mounds, and they do go hand in hand. I've heard a lot.
Absolutely.
Of stories. And another, with this idea that the Dogmen protect the burial mounds or the protective spirit, and
there's also spirits, Dogmen, for sure. That's not flesh and blood. I've seen the spirit form, and they could be 1,000 years old protecting those, but they can manifest just like a ghost, and they can make footprints.
Right.
This is another thing to be aware of. They are out there. There are ghost form Dogmen, and I'm absolutely positive of it. So, I know it. And that might have been what vanished. I'm not sure still.
Somebody in chat just brought up an interesting point. Ley lines. You know how many sightings?
Yeah, the ley lines.
Where they've been near and around ley lines.
And that's another thing that burial mounds are known for, is building on certain spots where ley lines cross, those kinds of things.
Yep. I almost just brought that up when you said that, the burial mounds, the ley lines,
Right.
That's all earth energy, when they go to the pyramids and they intersect and supposedly they go over the whole earth. And if you look at that grid, all them points where you line up, all the major things that go on, say like the Skinwalker Ranch, that's a major ley line. The LBL area in Kentucky, major. That's 2 or 3 intersecting. And this mid-Michigan is the other ley lines, and that goes right to Wisconsin, the same line. So there's a lot to that, and it has to do with energy, earth energy, and that's what I believe they use to manifest, just similar to ghosts. There are actual flesh and blood creatures that don't do that. I know that for a fact too. But they're definitely, if there's ghosts of humans, I think there's really highly likely that there's ghosts of Dogmen, because I have seen things I cannot explain. That's all I can say.
And that's one of the theories in paracryptozoology, because there are many theories trying to, explaining things like mind speak and different things and whatnot. And what I find really interesting is that, like you had brought up, Nevada and the Skinwalker Ranch, right?
Yep.
If there are parts of Nevada where, just like you said, there are parts of Michigan and us here in Wisconsin, we could tell you that there are parts of Wisconsin where everybody knows, what, like you said, for Michigan it's Dogman. For Wisconsin, a lot of people call it Beast of Bray Road or Dogman, you know, and then you got like the Skinwalker Ranch. Well, of course, Skinwalker, right? And
I've heard Wisconsin Wolfman too is another thing.
Yeah, Wisconsin Wolfman.
Wisconsin, yep, that's the same thing basically.
There are names all across the planet. I mean, Lobezone down in South America,
yes,
is popular.
Right. Yep.
So for sure, but that's interesting. And Wisconsin, by the way, they say has more burial mounds than any other state. It's interesting that Wisconsin also has so many Dogman sightings, and I bet Michigan isn't far behind as far as mounds. As far as the sightings, I don't know who.
In Michigan.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about the mounds.
Lots of sightings. Yeah, there's the mounds here in Michigan are from the natives. You know, they're Chippewa and Ottawa and you know, there's a lot of natives around here. I mean, Mount Pleasant over here, 45 minutes away, is one of the biggest native areas. I mean, they own whole counties over there. You know, that's huge. And they have casinos, and they have a lot of money, and they have a lot of power. And it's not like the natives that they used to be. These people are actually making a difference now. They have schools, and I like it. I really do, with the direction it's going. But not to get off topic, but there's a lot of natives in this area. Lots of natives. I'm part native myself, which just, you know, Cherokee from one side, and we called it Algonquin, which is the language, but it was actually a mixture of Chippewa, Ottawa. There was a whole bunch of tribes all mixed together, you know. So it was just easier to lump it all together by language, which was Algonquin, which was the language.
What's interesting, too, is that, like, this was probably like, I want to say like 7 years ago, we had a report come in where there was a native family camping out in a spot next to a sacred Indian bowl, like the kind of like where they do powwows and stuff, and there were burial mounds. And they had being family, their land comes right up to the native land, which has these mounds. Okay, so it's all in the same vicinity, and they were hearing these like loud, like almost like if Bobo was out there doing his, you know, things.
Yeah, the calls,
the calls. But they were freaked out because they were, and when we looked at a map, we were like, wow, I thought maybe like they were hearing something from the resort across the lake, or, you know, the house down the street, or no, there's nothing for miles and miles and miles. And when we heard the recordings, it was very impressive. But we were not allowed, we could know about it, but we couldn't go out there and investigate because the mounds are sacred. For that reason. The mounds are sacred, and they didn't want, basically, you know, paranormal investigators trouncing around, recording with recording equipment and trying to make contact. And that was, to them, that was just like, you know. And so that's
one of the things I wanted to try was like take a spirit box in the woods and use it like out in the woods for cryptids. And that's just something I really want to do. So.
Right.
We was at that time.
No, I think I could understand that point, though. I mean, mounds are sacred, and if you look at how many like cemeteries just, you know, that are getting desecrated, they're going to protect their deceased.
The Chippewas had an interesting story here about that the burial grounds. They were talking about how that their elders actually died and became the Dogmen to protect the their ancient areas and their burial mounds. Now the mound here in Michigan has not been dug up, and it's suspected here in Osceola County that mound has giants similar to which was called found in Wisconsin, the giants that were in that mound.
Right.
But they won't let them dig it up here. It's protected, and if anybody even tries to, it's like 10 years in jail, and it's serious. They're not playing around with these mounds at all.
And that's why you don't see a bunch of videos of people going to burial mounds all the time trying to do stuff, because it's like, you know, if anyone were to go out there and do that, they're trespassing, odds are, because and they're not going to get permission from any no tribe is going to give them permission. I mean, because it's sacred to them.
Right, and they want to protect the burials of their ancestors.
Right. So I mean, I can respect that.
Right. That's right. And anytime you dig up bones that's not supposed to be dug up, of course that has a curse, just like people that have been graveyards, the same type of thing. And I believe in all that. People, that's curses are not real and all this and that. People better open their eyes, because there's a lot of things out there that's real that nobody else thinks is. And open your eyes.
Right. Exactly. And let's see. I scribbled a couple things down while you were talking, points that pop in my head. And the other thing is mind speak, and we touched on that. We got like 2 minutes till our next break, but you're not the only one for Bigfoot and Dogmen who have reported hearing mind speak, and that's really interesting. I mean, the fact that we don't find bones of animals like from Dogmen or Bigfoot or any of these things for that matter is really intriguing. I think, but my thought is that I think some of these Dogmen could just drop on all fours where humans are around and just fool people. Because I've seen wolves, or I've seen a wolf one time that was the size of a small pony.
I've seen wolves here that you would not believe the size of them. It's insane how big they are.
So I would think that if they stand up, bam, it would depend on how their hands maneuver too, but even the last report I heard was the same thing. He noticed that it was on 2 legs. It also ran for a bit on 2 legs. And that
I've seen them on 4 legs and stand up to 2, so it is possible.
Right.
It's way far away, but I've seen it happen. So I use binoculars a lot, to be honest with you.
All right, everybody. And with that, it is time for our next commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe. We will be right back with our guests for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back from our second break. This is Paraversal Universe on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on WCET-FM, High Point Radio, and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik. Before we get back to the show, we want to tell you all that we are on Twitter as the NWPS and MeWe as Paraversal Universe. Our like and group pages on Facebook are under various headings as well. Having said that, check out our society's like page on Facebook, the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited, as well as Jennifer's like page, Jennifer Malik, Psychic Demonologist. Leave a like if you like what you see. We always appreciate it. And there are some Facebook group pages on Facebook we want you to check out. The Ultimate Conspiracies group page is one. The Lake Monstrosities group page is another. Feel free to join them both. Certainly love to see you there. Each network mentioned has a group and like page on Facebook as well. So check those out for upcoming content. I know David Keilman has got a page, Michigan Dogman Only. So check that out. This segment is brought to you by the book Trail of the Sasquatch, A Shaman's Journey by cryptozoologist and Iroquois shaman Don Young, who is also a member of the NWPS. Check out his Facebook group pages, Kindred Forest and Indigenous Americas. Any comments for this week's show can be addressed in the live chat room. So let's get back to it. This is Paraversal Universe, and we're speaking with parasociologist David Keilman about the Dogman phenomenon.
You know, someone else in chat brought up a really good point while we were at commercial, and it was Wendy, and, you know, her contention, and this is a valid question, and everybody wonders it. Where are the skeletons? Why don't we ever hear of seeing any of the skeletons when skeletons are found?
Any ideas?
Well, a lot of them could be the sightings, could be the ghost ones I was talking about. And they can, manifest, and they are definitely flesh and blood, but then all of a sudden they're not there. Could that be the same thing what happens when they die? I mean, we don't know because we're not them creatures. They could do things that we never even thought of. When humans die, we're just die, and that's it. But what if other creatures die and their actual flesh and blood body vanishes? I mean, it's a very high possibility, especially if some of them are not totally from Earth or, created by the creators, which I call them, which is God, basically, but interpreted differently, from the
That's
native.
interesting. Right, because if let's say they hold their vibration differently, because that's the thing, we can only see in a small portion of the entire visual spectrum. And
we're different. They're multidimensional, and we're not. That's what I was trying to say. So
right.
What if they die, they go into another dimension? Like we supposedly our spirit goes to another dimension. When we go see God. After death. But what if their actual body goes to another dimension when they pass? That's what I've thought, and that's part of my book that I was writing for a while there. That's one of the things that was in it. But it's just I try to think of things that's never been thought of before and just kind of bring them up, and then we all talk about it in my groups. Michigan Dogmen Only, Dogman Believers Only. I mean, I've started like 12 Facebook groups, but I let other people run them because I'm just so busy with it and family obligations and everything like that. Right. So I'm just proud to do my little part to try to educate people and, to know that these aren't all monsters. The real monsters, you look in the mirror. Now, humans are the real monsters. Everybody knows humans kill other humans every single day. But when a dogman does it once, they're an evil monster. Well, I'll tell you what, humans are the real monsters on the earth. I've seen it. I was in the Marine Corps. I know what monsters are, and it's not dogmen. I mean, they look like monsters. It's scary, yeah, but actions speak louder than words.
Right, and I also, some people have speculated that, another thing, just like with the Bigfoot, if these are, let's say, one hypothesis could be if these are more intelligent, if they have an intelligence, could they bury their dead, for example, or there's all sorts of possibilities. But I think the interdimensional one certainly is certainly plausible, and like you said, there's different types. There's different kinds. There's spiritual kind. You got the physical kind. Are some of them going from spiritual to physical, and then you got the shape-shifting kind, and then you got the kind created in labs, and do we have kind that were, who created the ones we have now? Were them created by, the sons of God who, made it with the daughters of men, created the Nephilim, and did they create things? Demigods, things like centaurs, minotaurs, mermaids, half human, half other animals. And I would think if we're talking about gods or demigods that have, to me, a god would have supernatural ability, would have anything that would call itself a god, like we call the fallen angels. If people are calling, and some people do call fallen angels gods. I mean, I think that's the pantheon personally, but be that as it may, these things are, if they have what we would call a supernatural element to them, then is it plausible that something they would create wouldn't have that too? Especially, let's say, if they're mixing their DNA with whatever, like Anubis, for example, or something.
Can I elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Absolutely, please do.
Because the supernatural, to me, is natural, but the technology hasn't been, invented yet. So 200 years from now, things that seem supernatural, like, for instance, like how they just beam people down on Star Trek, that's going to be real technology soon. Right. And then, the warp drive they're developing, and it's just a lot of things are supernatural. To me, it's natural, but the technology hasn't caught up with the actual, use of it. That's all I was saying.
Do you think that, certainly military is way ahead of anything they're letting us know about. And I could see where they would want, I could see where they would experiment. I'm sure they're genetic experimenting underground somewhere that they're not telling anyone about. Probably, stuff that, would make for a horror story, probably, in some cases. And who knows what they're creating. But they would be wanting to create things like the ultimate soldier and different things. And I could see that we can clone things. We can. I think that the scientists that work for the deep state are way ahead of what we hear about academia having access to, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So, and if they do, then what are they creating? So, interesting stuff.
Yeah. If you look at the Sumerian texts, of how things were created, they made humans to be workers on the earth to mine, and they made other creatures, Nephilim type creatures, giants, dog type creatures, all these other creatures. If we read the Sumerian texts, I realize some of them were translated and the translations are off, but the general gist of everything in the Sumerian text is it sounds like it's a very feasible thing for, that God to create these creatures, humans. If anything's aliens on Earth, I would believe it could be humans put here or, made, to be on here. The first Adam and Eve and all that. I mean, there was actually humans. They're found out way back longer than what they've actually thought. They've found recently a lot of fossils and things that shouldn't exist. The out of time thing. Now, could it be time travel? Yes, I believe in that as well. And multi-dimension time travel, which is something I could talk about for about 5 hours, and you guys would be very, very, very confused. And we won't do that to you. But I'm telling you, there's time. If you can alter time, you can pretty much do anything, and it would very, very much seem supernatural.
Another, other accounts I find interesting concerning Dogmen, some of the older ones, when you hear about like Marco Polo, not only seeing upright dogs but saying they have culture and they can speak to each other.
They were in the Olympics.
Yeah. And another interesting one is I've always thought was kind of interesting was St. Christopher. Which, if you look up St. Christopher, he is portrayed as having head of a dogman. In fact, and it's funny because there's even one classic painting that looks just like Worf from Star Trek. I mean, it looks so much like him portraying St. Christopher. Go ahead.
And if you knew me, you would know that I wear that St. Christopher necklace every night when I go out by myself. I always have that St. Christopher necklace on every time.
Thanks. But
That's
you know,
cool.
you always wonder too, like with the accounts throughout our history of reports of these sightings. You know, what about ancient Greece?
Yep.
Yeah, they had the Olympics where it was actually artists drew it, and you know, there was actually a tribe of men that had snouts and looked like dog on their head, and it was a real thing, and it's documented. But people just want to shake their head as, oh, that's all myths, that's all this. If people drew it and wrote it down, most likely it's true.
Absolutely. I agree with that totally. Absolutely. And for me, as I guess anytime paranormal phenomenon is mentioned, for me personally, I like to look at to see how much history there is of that, how far back it goes, how are people experiencing these things. Now I know some of the Dogman reports have scared people. Like you said, there's we don't hear about Dogmen killing people, although if we did, they may be missing people instead of Dogman casualty.
Well,
but generally speaking, go ahead.
Right, the dead don't talk. The dead don't talk. Basically, if you go in the woods and disappear, and the missing 411,
Right.
But they're saying only a small portion of those could be attributed to any cryptid at all, and most of them are alien related. I mean, as far as the unknown, like not dying of
serial killer
cold. Right. I mean, there's lots of natural explanations for people dying in the woods that definitely are not cryptids and definitely are not UFOs.
I agree with that too. I think the missing 411, I think if you look at all of them, there may be something I think there's a lot of things going on, a lot of different things. I think and I think one of them things has got to have a higher percentage than anything else. I don't know what that would be necessarily, but I'm sure that the list is probably actually pretty long.
Well, if you think about it, when it comes to all the things that can cause people to go missing, you have stuff like ET abductions, you have serial killers, you have portals, you have reports of Bigfoot carrying people away. I'm sure the same thing with Dogmen. There is an endless amount of ways.
Whether it's mountain lions, bears.
Mountain
right.
Bears.
And I've actually been ran across a mountain lion in the woods in the dark, and it's really scary. And bears all the time. I mean, right now, if I was out at nighttime right now, pretty much every night we'd be running into bears around here. But it's you got to know what's in the woods. I mean, there's things around here that are like wolf, pit bull creatures, I call them. And they were like people's pets, but now they breeded and they're wild dogs living in the woods. Those are dangerous. They will hurt you. I mean, I had to climb a tree more than once from the same creatures.
Yeah.
You go out in the field too. I mean, you have cameras out there, I know. Oh, we should tell people about your like page.
Yes.
Which I really like. David Keilman, parasociologist. Did I get that right?
Parasociologist. That's right. Because I like to put the crypto in there because it's important.
Right.
I do believe in ghosts, which is, the para part, and then crypto is they have some of the same abilities as far as I'm concerned. The multi-dimension and all that. That's kind of overlapping into the ghost area. But the socialist, I am basically a socialist. I mean, not socialist, sociologist. Sorry, not a socialist. But
Big
You know, I
difference.
study people. I study people. I was reading something else and my mind went somewhere else.
That's
But
good.
yeah, I got to do one thing at a time. But I study people. You know, that's what sociology is. And a
Right.
lot of times on my groups, I'll be studying these people and they'll be making comments. I'll be like, well, why would they say that? And, you know, and I begin to figure out that there's a lot of people that's on the internet just to cause you problems. And that's the ones I try to filter out and eliminate from the groups. And I do it nicely, you know, and I say, you know, but you can definitely tell in some of the groups that when you're a sociologist, you definitely can tell, you know, who is out to cause trouble and who's not, you know, and that's one of the advantages I have as an admin is I'm able to read people really well online. And I read people really well in person too. I'll get vibes just like dogs do, like if they're a good person or a bad person. I actually do that myself.
I'm sorry. Why don't we continue this conversation? It's time for our next commercial break.
Yeah, I want to talk about
We
this.
want to talk more about this when we get back.
Yeah, we'll pick up.
You are listening to Paraversal Universe. We will be right back with our guest for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. The president visited in Indianapolis today to speak to the NRA's annual meeting and announced before a cheering crowd his intention to withdraw from an international arms treaty. True to his reputation as a showman, the president signed the order on stage in front of thousands of NRA members and then threw his pen into the crowd. NPR's Tim Mack has more from the NRA convention.
The UN Arms Trade Treaty was initially signed by former President Obama. He sent it to the Senate for ratification during his second term, but it stalled there. Nearly 100 countries have now ratified the treaty. In a lengthy speech, Trump announced that he was rejecting the treaty, which attempts to regulate international arms trade in conventional weapons.
Under my administration, we will never surrender American sovereignty to anyone. We will never allow foreign bureaucrats to trample on your Second Amendment freedom.
The president urged NRA members to go out and vote for him in 2020, stressing that he would be a staunch defender of gun rights. Tim Mack, NPR News, Indianapolis.
The U.S. economy grew at a better-than-expected pace of 3.2% during the first quarter of the year. NPR's Scott Horsley reports that's a turnaround from the final months of 2018.
The Commerce Department says economic growth accelerated during the first quarter, topping 3%, just as the White House had predicted. Many outside forecasters are not so optimistic, though. Economist Ben Herzon of IHS Markit says first quarter growth was fueled in part by a buildup in business inventories, which is not likely to be sustained.
The pace at which they're building inventories can't last. So I think what's going to happen is after a first quarter burst in inventory building, that inventory building is going to slow down and contribute to a slowing in overall GDP growth.
Herzon predicts overall growth for the year in the neighborhood of 2%. The Commerce Department says business investment slowed in the first quarter, as did federal spending. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Activists in Hungary say authorities are denying food to migrants stuck in transit zones on the country's borders. Joanna Kakissis has more.
The Hungarian Helsinki Committee documented 13 cases of deliberate starvation since last August. Hungarian authorities denied food to 21 migrants, including children. Activists call this a human rights violation, but the Hungarian government says it doesn't have to feed migrants whose asylum requests it has denied.
Joanna Kakissis reporting. The Supreme Court of Kansas ruled today that the state constitution protects abortion rights and blocked a 2015 law that banned a second trimester abortion procedure. The court said vague language protecting equal and inalienable rights in the first section of the Kansas Constitution's Bill of Rights grants a natural right of personal autonomy that includes the right to control one's own body. Wall Street higher just before the closing bell. This is NPR. A cyclone that's equal to a Category 4 hurricane has made landfall in Mozambique. Last month, another powerful cyclone in East Africa killed more than 1,000 people in 3 countries. Halima Gakandi from Nairobi.
Cyclone Kenneth landed in northern Mozambique on Thursday evening, bringing winds of over 130 miles per hour. In recent days, local officials had been ordering people to evacuate high-risk areas, and aid workers had been rushing to stock food and emergency supplies. Michael Charles works for the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. He says extensive damage is expected.
Land will be destroyed. Water sanitation will be an issue. Shelter will be an issue.
This comes as resources are still strained after another cyclone wreaked havoc in central Mozambique only last month. The UN estimates Cyclone Idai killed at least 1,000 people in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Malawi. Heavy rains in the coming days are expected to cause severe flooding and further damage. For NPR News, I'm Halima Gikandi in Nairobi.
Ford says the Justice Department has opened a criminal investigation into its emissions and certification process. The automaker says employees noticed possible problems with a mathematical model used to calculate pollution and mileage, prompting Ford to hire an outside firm to run tests to determine whether it overstated gas mileage and understated emissions on a wide range of vehicles. Ford says it voluntarily notified the EPA and says it is fully cooperating with government agencies. Wall Street ending the day higher just before the closing bell. The Dow up 81 points, the Nasdaq up 27, the S&P 500 up 13. I'm Janine Herbst, NPR News in Washington.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back from halftime. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. Also heard on the Rift Radio Network out of Virginia, WCET-FM out of South Carolina, and High Point Radio out of New Jersey. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik, coming to you from northern Wisconsin here at the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center in Rhinelander. You can always enjoy excellent talk radio for awesome and informative fringe shows about the paranormal, supernatural, esoteric, and Fortean topics on this network and affiliate platform websites. Not only our show, but many other good shows about different facets of the unknown and unexplained. Much to listen to and much to enjoy. Stream live on TuneIn, iTunes, or the Paranormal Livestream app, available from Android app in the iTunes Store. This segment is brought to you by the Supernatural Magazine, where our articles can be read. And this is Paraversal Universe. We are speaking with parasociologist David Keilman about Dogman phenomenon. And when we went to break, David had just brought up the sociology aspect of the Dogman phenomenon, which is parasociology, and when you apply sociology to the unknown and unexplained, basically. And I know individuals are affected by, some people get really freaked out, especially if they have a Dogman encounter. And I've heard of some Dogman encounters where the people, you could tell, were scared or upset them. And we know that people that have experienced traumatic paranormal experiences have actually, in some cases, developed PTSD because of it.
Right.
So, and of course, Dogman, 7 to 8 foot tall, growling werewolf looking thing, that would freak anybody out. I don't care who you are.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about how that affects people and even the families, their social unit? When someone sees one and then takes it back to the family and tells the family about it, and then the family, whether they accept it, whether they reject the idea or the notion, or maybe some of the family members have also had their own experiences.
Right. I've almost got to use their psychology a bit too. Some of these people are really damaged. When they see a Dogman, that's something that's supposed to not exist in their world. So it kind of, it's like a major load on you. You can't believe it, and you're telling yourself, this can't be real, but it is, and a lot of people just can't handle that. And the experiences themselves, like, will give you PTSD. They'll, growl and be up in your face, and and scare the hell out of you a lot of times in these encounters. And that's not a cuss word, but it's just, that's the way it goes. I mean, these things are scary. I mean, there's a lot of things in the woods that are scary. I mean, they can give you PTSD. And a lot of these people are reaching out to me and say, hey, what can I do to keep these things away from my house? Or, well, am I safe here? And, I always use the most dangerous, do I feel, most in danger when I'm walking to the store at 3 a.m, or when I'm walking in the woods at 3 a.m. Well, I feel more safe when I'm walking in the woods at 3 a.m, is what I tell them. And it's because I've seen people actually get hurt, get robbed, get mugged at walking to the store 2, 3 a.m. by humans. And, I've not actually seen anybody be assaulted by a dogman or a werewolf type creature or anything like that. I've seen them, but yeah, they were scary. And yeah, I didn't talk about it for like 10 years. The first time after I saw it, I just kind of investigated on my own. And, but a lot of people are just damaged inside. And when your friends don't believe you, I've come across that a lot around here, oh, I'm so glad I have somebody that finally believes me. I know I'm not lying. I know you're not lying because I've seen it myself. And they need that person that they can rely on to, believe their stories. And, because that's what eats at people is, oh, I'm a liar. I'm a this, I'm a that. I reassure them that, what you saw was real and it's not as dangerous and as evil looking as it looks. It's more they're trying to scare you away than trying to hurt you. But don't ever think that they can't choose to hurt you. If you do the wrong thing, your actions can lead to your demise. You have to go through a certain amount of protocols out there. Am I invading their space? Am I going there, where I'm not supposed to? That's the main thing they don't want you to do, and that's the main thing that will cause a confrontation, is you going into their space and going somewhere where they don't think you belong, and that causes the most issues.
Have you ever? We know that there's a percentage of people who whether they're creating their own thought form or whether they're looking for attention or for whatever the reason, have you talked to people who have come to you and then you realize something, they'll say something or you'll get a red flag or something will tell you that maybe perhaps this person...
Yes. Okay. There's a guy named Kenny in the groups. And he's definitely had a mental illness where he wanted to become a werewolf. And, I try to get those people help, and I actually refer them to people that I know in the area. And I'll look up, psychologists. And there's actually a name for people that want to become a werewolf. I forgot the technical term, but there is some kind of a mental illness that entails. And, being a sociologist, you're part counselor, you're part psychologist, you're part teacher, you're part historian. It's sociology. It just goes over so many things. I like using my psychology, to help others because that's why I got into it in the first place, because I was damaged from the Marines and, I was a counselor and this and that. So I said, well, I'm going to take this up because I like it. It helps me and I can help others. And that's what I've continued to do throughout the years. I mean, my children are successful because of my studies, my social, what I learned from sociology and psychology, it all rubbed off on them. And now they're very successful because I, helped them forge themselves in a positive way. I'm very proud of my children. They've done very well. So
that's awesome. And that is awesome. That you are helping people. And I know you are. I've seen you do it for years now. And
we both have. And the term that you were referring to for the people believing they're werewolves is lycanthropy.
Lycanthropy.
Yeah.
Lycanthropy.
Yeah. lycanthropy, metamorphosis, psychosis, or something like that.
Right.
Was the diagnosis.
And the thing that you're right, sociology. As a paranormal historian, I've been a proponent for parasociology for a long time, even though I am not one. We used to have one in the NWPS years ago. Her name was Pam, a very nice lady and a qualified paranormal investigator, and she specialized in metaphysics in sociology or parasociology the way you do in cryptozoology in parasociology.
Right.
So anyhow, so as a proponent, once in a while, I will write articles about parasociology from my perspective, not as from a sociologist, but from a paranormal historian and someone who runs a paranormal society. And one of the things I find about parasociology that's really cool is that it is so diverse in the fact that you can apply parasociology to any field of the unknown and unexplained. You can also apply, parapsychology to a point, but I find that parasociology interacts equally within all of them. And I, like you said, it covers a lot of area. And I guess that's just my way of saying I've noticed that too. I've noticed that even in the paranormal. And I think that and another reason I'm a proponent for parasociology is because, like you said, sociologists are also therapists. So there's that whole quality and aspect because there is sociology derives from psychology, basically. So you have that aspect.
You have to take psychology when you're in sociology, so they overlap,
So, that's really cool. That's really cool that there are parasociologists out there who are applying their skills to these different areas, because then they can contribute to the field of the paranormal field with academic perspective and data, even perspectives at a minimum. So that's cool.
Right.
It's cool. And I hope someday that you do get your book done. I know you've been working on it. I know we're just finishing our first book. In fact, the transcribing was just finished. It's about 95% done right now. Doing the final proofreading right now. And then it will be off to be formatted. And man, it takes some people whip them out, but for us, it was.
I do have the talk to text now, which helps. Before I had to just type it all, and I do have the talk to text, which is helping, definitely helping because it does the punctuation and all. So I like this talk to text program that I've been using.
You should check out Dragon Software. We have that.
Dragon, yeah.
Go ahead. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
The Dragon works well. Yeah, I like that. I had a CD of it, and I had it on my other computer, but it died. The hard drive died on it. But yeah, I like that program. It was really good. But the main thing I was going to say about Dogmen is, before we get off the subject, I know we were talking about sociology and everything, but you need people that, can help others. You can't just be a group and talk about people share all these encounters and, my son was here and these people are in respectable jobs and they don't even want to give their names. And but you talk to them PMs and they're, I'm work at a nuclear power plant. And, these are respectable people. They're not just making up things. I mean, there's been plenty of instances where Linda Godfrey has had people, take lie detectors and they pass with flying colors. I mean, if you go to the Monster Quest shows, I mean, that's a big phenomenon in itself that these people are passing lie detectors where they, see these creatures, and I know I would pass one for sure. So, and it's just a matter of.
I'm sorry. I know there was one case where they had 3 people, all of which seen the said Dogmen. In this case, it was men. There was more than one. And these three people all took lie detector tests, and they all passed. So not only do you have them passing lie detector tests, but they collaborate each other, which adds strength to the evidence.
Yeah. Now, and any other thing, if you brought that evidence to court, it would already been proven. But as in the case of cryptids, Bigfoot, Dogmen, the eyewitness testimony is not enough. What you're talking about is not enough. You have to do more, and it's not fair, really. To be honest with you, it's a double standard.
Okay, everybody, and with that, it's time for our next commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe, and we will be right back with our guest for the next segment.
All right, moving right along.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back from our commercial break. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on WCET-FM and affiliates and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik. Before the interview, or before we get back to the interview, I should say, let's take a quick moment to specifically mention the radio call dials for the AM/FM terrestrial radio stations who carry Paraversal Universe, which includes WCET, which is located on 101.7 FM on the dial out of Columbia, South Carolina, and then High Point Radio, which can be found on 100.5 FM and 1620 AM out of New Jersey, which broadcasts in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So hello to all of you tuning in over the airwaves. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. This segment is brought to you by the like page Parasociology on Facebook. Parasociology is the study of how paranormal manifestations and experiences can affect a family, group, or collective. Parasociology also examines how spirituality is practiced in different cultures. So go check that out if you get a chance and leave a like for future content. If you are lucky, Facebook will put that on your timeline. All right, back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe. We are speaking with parasociologist David Keilman. David, you still with us?
Oh yeah, I'm still here. I'm just excited to people hear us on the radio, and all over, and it brings more people to the groups, which makes the discussions way better. And I realize I'm just little Facebook groups, but some have 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 members. That's a lot of people, and it's nice to be recognized every once in a while and have these kind of shows where more people can get together. So that's a good thing.
Yes, it is. We totally agree with that. And it's good to have you back on. It is. It's been too long. So you mentioned that you are a hunter, but are you pro-kill or no-kill as far as things concerning cryptids or just whatever, I guess? I mean, what's your stance on that?
I won't kill a cryptid unless my life is in danger. As only as a last defense is what I've always said. But chances are, if they want to kill you, you're not going to be able to do anything about it anyway. And so you might as well just go out, with your positive thoughts. But many times I could have been taken out in the woods, many, many times. And I'm still here. And this is after, they say that 10,000 hours is a master's degree. Well, I have 10,000 hours at night, looking for Dogmen, Sasquatch, and spirits. And I've been doing it. I used to go 2-tracking and just go park and then go walk. And I just started up doing it again. And that 10,000 hours is a lot of things. But what it is your knowledge expands every time. If you don't learn something every time in the woods or every time you're reading something, then you're not doing it right. You need to learn something new every day, which was a major goal in my life a long time ago. And I've expanded my personal knowledge of a whole lot of different subjects just by trying to learn something new every day. And it's a suggestion for everybody. Don't think you know it all and be humble. That's my message.
That's good advice. Wise.
Very.
And I'm looking at the list of theories in paracryptozoology. Let's see, we touched on cloaking and invisibility. For sure we did. And Jennifer brought up portals, which I would assume you think is also a possibility. Am I assuming correctly?
The portals are an enhanced energy area, that they use to move, from one point to another point, which multi-dimension. But I don't necessarily believe they have to have a portal to go to another dimension. They just need the energy. And a lot of times they'll say there's portals, but what them portals are is a massive amount of natural earth energy and confined to a really small area. And they can use that natural earth energy, energies to do what they need to do to, go wherever they want to go or whatever they wanted to do. But it's similar to how ghosts manifest. They use that energy, I'll call it mana or whatever you want to call it. But it's that, like what the monks use. And I mean, this is serious science stuff. You can't just say, oh, that's mumbo jumbo. That's supernatural. Monks and stuff like that know about this energies, and they've been using it for a long time. There's a reason why they can do the amazing things they can do.
Oh, right. I mean, of course, the Chinese have or I should say the Orient has their death touch, the qi, which is, and then like you said, the Tibetan monks, they'll go up in the Himalayas, mountains, in their togas or robes or whatever, and
they go barefoot,
and they don't freeze. And
right,
I think in some cases the snow even melts around them as they're lying,
right.
And they'll sleep overnight in weather that would kill somebody. And so there's definitely, and there is science to back this stuff up. I mean, for sure. And I'm glad that there is. I'm glad that the lid has been off the pot for the last 20 some years. Being that we can talk about things more openly than we could 20 years ago and prior. So that's a good thing. We are starting to see areas where censorship is starting to happen. So that's my take. My take on that is that they're trying to put that lid back on the pot. Because I do believe there are certain secrets and things that they would rather us not know and not think about and not be aware of, for whatever justification they can come up with. That's just my personal.
Protect them.
Yeah,
to protect them.
Yeah.
that's their famous line. Oh, it's to protect you.
Yeah.
But
I'm looking at okay, so now another one we discussed was Ghost of Cryptids, which is totally
right.
Or if someone sees Bigfoot disappearing, is it that he's cloaking? Is it that he walked through a portal? Or is it maybe that he's a ghost of a Gigantopithecus, for all we know?
Right. There could be giant cryptid ghosts out there. I mean, it's just, you gotta, if there's human ghosts, if there's ghosts of dogs and cats, then there can be definitely ghosts of cryptids out there, but, Mothman, Bigfoot, whatever, and I believe that because I've seen things that I can't explain, and that's the only way I can explain it was, if I want to explain it, that's the way I got to look at it.
Yeah. Another thing is demonic cryptids. And to me, when you have creatures with red glowing eyes, or they're all black, or they're around, before terrible accidents, or them kind of things seem demonic. At least they seem to look it. When you look at how the demonic activity affects somebody, however, if they're experiencing the same kind of symptoms and stuff, then yes, they've been demonically oppressed. But with dogmen, even as scary as they are, it doesn't seem like in most cases, or almost all cases for that matter, that when people have a dogman encounter, that there's any what we would call demonic repercussions from it. And that tells me that we're not dealing, them aren't demons per se. And same thing with Bigfoots. Some people have suggested that the forest spirits, as people call them, right? Forest spirits are some of them are demonic. But to me, if they were demonic, then when you judge a demonic haunting, you have to do it on a certain list of criteria. You need to see certain things present to deem it such. And you don't see that with the Dogman reports. So, they can affect someone. Yes, they can be terrifying. And yes, we can't explain them. Demonic, though, I don't think so. What's your take on that?
I just believe that there's just a creature out there that people don't know about. I mean, there's lots of things out there that's been undiscovered throughout history. And I don't think they're evil, or they just are what they are. Just like, Bigfoot is the same thing. They are what they are. They're not trying to be, evil. And if they were, a whole lot more people would be vanishing, disappearing, and bad things would be happening to them. I mean, it's kind of a bad rap they get. And people, they killed this guy, they killed that guy. Well, they have 3 instances out of thousands and thousands of sightings, and they try to build it up like Dogman's, this big killer and all this. But the facts are that, there's been very, 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 very small amounts of people actually killed and injured from these creatures. But that's the ones that live to tell about it. If you're out by yourself and things happen, of course you can't come back and tell about it. So there's lots of stories out there that can't be told. So we got to keep that in, the unknown factor in our brains. Because when I go out looking for Dogman, I try to use that feeling where I get goosebumps, and I know they're near when I get that. And the people get that from ghosts and the paranormal. But that's how I use my paranormal to cross over to the cryptids, because I use it almost like a radar, to find where they're at. And the more goosebumps and the more you feel, the euphoria, I call it, then you're getting closer. But you don't want to get too close. Always don't test the boundaries. You might hear them and you might feel them, but most of the times you don't get to see them. But that's just being honest.
Right. Well, they would, and that certainly is falls under the paracryptozoology. And the other thing that we haven't brought up on the list, because we talked about shapeshifting. We haven't talked about the hole in the veil theory. And the other thing we haven't talked about is anomalous lights with cryptid sightings.
Orbs. I'm constantly seeing orbs in the woods, and they'll either be red, blue, or white, and occasionally either be amber or yellow. But it's like these orbs. I've seen them so many times. I wish I could get a video of one. I've seen them all over the place, and the orbs definitely have something to do with cryptids, because I've seen where it was an orb and then something, was there, like big, hairy, whatever it is. It's just so dark. When the orb disappears, then something's there and the orb's gone. So maybe they're using that for travel, like ghosts do or whatever. But when you're multi-dimensional, that other dimension that these creatures go to is somewhere we can't go, not where we're alive. But apparently they can. So maybe they're using that part of the brain that the humans don't use. And I've heard all these theories, but all I can say is Dogmen is real. And especially, the Beast of Bray Road is real. These creatures are real. Do a little research. And that people that say, well, there's no evidence to support that. And blah, blah, blah. Well, listen to the 300 Dogman encounter shows, or
there is evidence. It may not be the best physical evidence of all time,
right?
But
eyewitness testimony goes a long way in court, but yet it doesn't do any good when it comes to cryptids. Now that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
We did get a victory though. They finally put the word cryptid in the Webster dictionary.
Yeah.
As of this week.
It took them long enough.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, see? Yeah, I noticed that. That was something I seen online, of course.
Yeah, well,
yeah, that was cool.
Very much so. Very much so.
I've been using that word for a minute now, so I was glad to see it was in there. I mean, it's been years of cryptid,
Other researchers, too, have gotten where they've put out bait for, like, Bigfoot or whatever, and they won't get a Bigfoot, but they'll get orbs flying around.
Or like some mist.
Right, and we're not just talking about dust orbs, because yes, there are dust orbs.
Right.
There's dust and moisture.
Big ones. I'm talking inches across, not
right. We're talking the kind that do things
inches across.
Right. They create their own light. They have a tail and trail. Sometimes they're different colors.
Right. They have
they're
minds of
bigger,
their own.
Intelligent. They move intelligently.
Yep. So if someone's got a bait pile and they get this activity and then their bait's gone, what does that tell you? I mean, to me, what it says, and okay, I know there are people out there that fabricate stuff, but not everybody is. Okay, and for all the evidence you can find, because that's one of the nice things about the lid coming off the pot, was that people started getting together in groups. Okay, so now we're talking about parasociology again, to go out and investigate the unknown and unexplained. So we have paranormal societies popping up, and we have cryptid societies popping up. And so you got all these people out there in the woods. They got their trap cams, and right, we're not getting the hard evidence, but once in a while there's something that's really intriguing, and sometimes there's stuff that is just unexplainable, where even everyone's just kind of scratching their head, saying, "Well, what is that?" or "What was that?" or Another thing I hear is we had the trap cameras on, the bait pile, the bait's gone, and the trap camera didn't go off. But it went off before, and then it went off after because the food was there when it went off before, and the food was gone after. Yeah. But we don't have anything taking the food away. I mean, when you hear stuff like that, or another one, it's like when people are following Bigfoot tracks, right? And that, let's say like in the snow tundra or something, and there's track after track after track after track, and they're following and following, and all of a sudden in the middle of a field they stop.
Yeah,
just stop. It's like
and go to nowhere. And go to nowhere. Remember I talked about manifesting? That's a possibility right there. Because footprints don't disappear into nowhere from a natural creature. I mean, that's just not something that happens. The way to explain Bigfoot and the disappearing footprints and all that is the multidimensional factor, and that's what makes sense to me. And, people say when things make sense, that's, leans towards the truth. But it doesn't make it all true, but it leans towards the truth.
Right. So, so that's something else that's interesting. And I think that when you look at all the different possibilities, just these theories, here there's a list of 8 different what are called traits, paranormal traits that can be found in some cryptid reports. And between all the traits and the fact that we're not getting the evidence that we should be able to get, tells me that and like you said, you have the fact that you have like doctors and policemen and park rangers and in some cases people that have come forward and they can even risk losing their job over telling people, but they'll come forward and they'll say, yes, I had this encounter, this is what happened,
right.
And
it happens a lot more than you think, put it that way.
And like you said, the other thing, go ahead, I'm sorry.
These people have no reason to lie. Why would you lie to get ridiculed? A lot of times it's better off just keeping it all to yourself, then you ain't got to deal with the consequences and repercussions of telling your story. And, oh, my God, that sounds so ridiculous. It can't possibly be true. And I've heard that so many times. And then you talk to these people in private and you talk to them and you know that they believe they're telling the truth. And to me, if they believe they're telling the truth, to me, that's almost the same thing as saying you're not lying. But some people can convince themselves, but it's really hard to do.
Right. Well, it's kind of like that instance where we heard about those young teenagers that were out in the woods and they came across some dogmen around the water, and they ran after they seen them because they stood up from on all fours, just on their hinds.
Right.
And they went after him, and they weren't believed until they all had to take lie detector tests, and all of them take lie detector tests.
That was Katie and them 2 guys. Yep. I actually talked to her in PMs that way, Katie. So I used to talk to her all the time, but I can't find her on the internet anymore. I don't know why, but she's got rid of her stuff.
Why don't we take our last commercial break? You are listening to Paraversal Universe, and we will be right back with our guest for the final segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son? What are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome!
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Alrighty, we're back, everyone. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting, also heard on WCET FM, High Point Radio, and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik, and we're glad you are with us as always. We now have the t-shirt for the logo for Lake Monstrosities for purchase. Half the proceeds will go to charity and a specific cause to help 8-year-old Daniel DeMisa, who suffers from Dravet syndrome and seizures on a regular basis. Lake Monstrosities is the largest social media group outlet dedicated to aquatic mysteries and wonders of all kinds. So go look for those shirts there. There should be a pin post. It's a great group and great artwork and a great shirt for a great cause. So check that out. This segment is brought to you by the 5-star Reader's Choice Award-winning epic fantasy trilogy, Helm, by Robert L. Malik. And we got the news during one of the breaks that the third book in the trilogy has just been released today. So today is the release date on that third book. Each book is like between 800 and 1,000 pages of excellent epic fantasy. So if that's something you're into, check that out. And back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we are speaking with parasociologist David Keilman about the Dogman phenomenon. You still with us, David?
Yes, I'm still here.
Cool.
I just wanted to get if there were any last-minute questions anybody had that I could try to answer. I'll do my very best. I only have a few minutes left, but just go to my group, Michigan Dogman Only. That's a public group you can find. That's why I made it public, so that people can just find it on Google, which is very good because most of these Facebook groups are private and you can't find them. So go ahead.
I was going to ask you how your training in the military helped you. Were you when you're in the woods, when just in this, I guess.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I love just getting like a big pile of leaves in the ground and then just crawling in them and or just blend in like sniper style tactics. I love wearing the camo that matches where you're at, and a lot of times I'll just sit and somewhere and observe. I don't walk around and make a bunch of noise. I sit in areas where I know that they will, they've been known to walk, and I basically set up like a sniper, but I don't have a weapon. I'm very, very stealthy. I try to just use my military training to basically vanish into the landscape around me, and when you're walking around, you can't do that. But when you're sitting still, it's very possible to be unseen, even by these, creatures. I've had cougars walk right past me within 30 yards, and they didn't see me or hear me or smell me. Bears, too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do dogmen make noise of any kind?
Oh, they have several different ones. They have like a growl, or they'll have an aggressive, like, like a growl, like a dog. Right. And then they have the howl, the real high howl, almost like wolves, like, way up there type of thing. But you can definitely tell when, say there's a pack of coyotes around, and you'll start hearing yip, 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 and you'll hear something go, Rrr. That's something telling them to be quiet. I've got that on a recording I did, and I actually caught something telling the coyotes to be quiet, and they were quiet. So that was really interesting, and I actually caught it all on audio.
All right. So I do have a question for you from the chat room. How about any diseases in dogmen? Are they susceptible to human diseases, or is there just not enough documentation on it?
I don't really know, but I think that's one of the reasons why they're afraid of humans, is because, we carry all these diseases, and they don't have vaccinations. Even dogs, other dogs, can give them, all these diseases can give them parvo, or, there's a whole bunch of things that can kill dogs. Well, if they have any canine DNA in them, they're susceptible to things that they're not vaccinated against, which I'm really not a vaxxer. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I think a lot of people get too many vaccinations, and it causes maybe autism and stuff like that. They said I was autistic when I was a child. Well, I'm learning that it was most likely from vaccinations.
Yeah, not to change the subject, we're almost done, but right. I feel the same way you do, actually, when it comes to vaccines and stuff. But
there's just overdoing it. That's all.
Yeah, for sure. And then pharmaceutical companies are another show for another time. And
there you go.
Yes.
Right. What advice would you give people out there listening who hang out in the woods on a daily basis as far as safety measures in case they should come across one?
The best thing is never go out alone like I do. Always have somebody with you. If you're going to carry any kind of weapon, you're never going to see anything. I don't know if they smell the gunpowder, or it seems like whenever I carried a weapon, I never would see one or never hear one or anything. It's like you have to open yourself up, like so dogs can read character when somebody comes to your house and they growl and they read your body language, and they're a lot like dogs, and they can tell who's out trying to get them, and they know if you're up to no good before you do. They know if somebody's up to no good, and they can just tell, just like dogs can tell when bad people come in your house. It's the same thing.
Do you come across hoaxes at all?
Yeah, I have, and I don't want to bring up any certain people, but there's some definitely storytellers, horror tellers that make up stuff or make them sound better than what actually happened, kind of build it up for YouTube views. And I think that's a real big thing that's kind of detracting from the Dogman phenomenon right now. They're, saying things for horror, and it's actually making, it worse. Like, people fear them even more now, even though they don't need to as much as what people say. They do have the capability to kill anybody anytime they want to. They choose not to most of the time. So just think about that.
Right. That's, I can't I can't say how many people have, and I agree with it. People are more worried or should be more fearful of other humans. More time than not to say that not to say that this stuff can't affect you or even hurt you, because it can, and it has. Paranormal phenomenon, just in general, whether it be this or that.
Yeah.
Right,
and also thing I think, and I wonder about, and I think, it's like if we touch on Facebook for Bigfoot for a few seconds here, it's said that if you go to land for expeditions, the minute you step foot on the land, they know you're there before you can get out of your vehicle. And I tend to think that it's the same thing with Dogmen. Especially if you're dealing with, especially if you're dealing with like the ethereal ones.
Right.
That's right. They know. They know you can't get close. If they don't want you getting close to them, you won't. Let's put it that way. You have to kind of build up a trust for actually get close to one.
We will be. One of the things we do in the society is we go out on paracryptozoological campouts. In the boonies, deep, and we investigate for cryptids. Places we go to have had sightings or reports, and we not only utilize the techniques in cryptozoology, not all of them, most of them, but the other thing, we also apply techniques from the other fields within the unknown and unexplained, because our feeling is we don't have all the answers, and we should be looking outside the box, because nobody has come up with any answers for so long, and this is still a mystery. So we investigate it paranormally as well. We use psychics, using equipment. Using
scientific method, that too.
Method, right? Everything. We apply from all angles, and we're going to go out again here in a little while, and not a lot of people are doing that, but it's growing. The paracryptozoology field is gaining momentum every day. Just the idea that, hey, we don't know what's going on with these things. Can we agree at least on that? And there is a section of people that would want to pursue the paranormal aspects, and I'm glad that they have their own field to do so. And now where it's not, attacked by ridicule.
Right. Woo, they call it woo. Well, I believe in the woo. So, there's something to that. You can't make fun of things you don't understand. People fear what they don't understand. So I try to understand more every day and fear less.
So on that note, we've come to the end of the show. David, thank you so much for coming on, for taking your time out to chat with us about Dogman and parasociology and cryptozoology and all that.
Right, and we're very both of us are very thankful and appreciative for the time you've given us and for those listening tonight. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime. I enjoy it, and like I said, thank you for having me. On the show and on the radio. Did the best job I could. So that's all you can ask. So
good stuff. You can find Dave on Dogman, Michigan Dogman only, or Dogman Believers only.
Both.
Okay, both. All right. Sweet. We'd like to thank David Keilman for being such an awesome guest today, or tonight, wherever you are. Next Friday, we are going to have another edition of the Paralogian Report. News about the fringe, so don't miss that. Feel free to support any of the networks mentioned here tonight, as well as the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited, 501c3 nonprofit organization, by donating. It's folks like you who ensure these excellent organizations and networks will be here tomorrow. To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming.
And to the skeptic, there will never be enough.
Thank you. God bless you. Everyone have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you here next time.
Good night, everyone.
You are listening to WPHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.